Well, I'm delighted to be on this video today. My name is Jim Carroll. I farm in Brinkley, Arkansas. We raise soybeans, corn, rice, and wheat when I keep the geese off of it. And I'm a fourth generation farmer here. But the main thing to let you know today, I'm chairman of the USB for 2020, and it's been an honor and a privilege to do that. And I want to welcome you today to the Southern Corn and Soybean Conference. It's one of those things that I've been familiar with all these years, and it's changed names, so I just had to learn a new name for it. But I'm here representing USB and the Mid-South Soybean Board. Soybeans are a huge crop and highly sustainable sources of protein. Soybean meal and oil products are used in everything from human food to animal food to biodiesel, asphalt, tires, shoes. You can go on a list, no telling how long. Soybean yields have increased on the average of 0.4 bushels per acre since 1960. This is great news. However, we know that yield potentials are even higher, as seen by many of our state yield contest winners who are often seeing more than 100 bushel per acre. There's one thing you might ask yourself during this meeting. How can we reduce the yield gap between the potential they're showing for resistance and our typical on-farm yields? That's the thing that farmers try to do, is make the research values and our farm values the same and realize more potential. We know for sure that many diseases threaten soybeans, and some are easier to manage than others. In some cases, management is becoming more difficult as these diseases evolve and overcome natural plant resistance and even chemical control. In the southern states, approximately 9.3% of yield was lost to diseases in each of the last 5 years. This adds up to over 87 million bushels per year, with the 12 million lost to SCN alone. But there's also other things out there that we have resistance to. We see a lot of loss to insects, and insect-related soybean losses plus control costs throughout the U.S. were estimated to be $25 an acre in 2019. Now, that doesn't, I always try to correlate that to what that means to you. When beans are just $8 and something, that's 3 bushel per acre. When they're like they are now at $10.50, that's not but 2. But irregardless, it's still a loss, and it's something for us to all to consider how to stop that and make our farms more profitable. As with diseases, the struggle with insects can be just as devastating as the disease, and they can be also resistant to chemicals, just like diseases can. We're searching steadily for new cultivars of soybeans that are resistant to specific insects, and it's certainly a goal of both USB and the MSSB to try to control diseases and insects. Now let's talk about some of the specific projects of USB and MSSB are funding that have relevance to the southern soybean farmer and will help you maximize the profits and close this gap between yield potential and on-farm yields. Pinion Chen at the University of Missouri, who's a seed breeder, noticed that off-target dicamba damage to non-extend beans. It was significant, and it varied considerably across genotypes and maturity groups. Furthermore, the extent of that damage correlated to yield performance. Over the span of 3 years and 3,000 research plots, this group documented damage in Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Missouri. This year, they are starting a controlled greenhouse study where they'll be able to vary the dosage, the duration, and the frequency of this dicamba exposure in order to identify genes that can control tolerance to that herbicide. Eventually, they hope to develop a non-extend variety of soybeans that has a natural tolerance to dicamba. Every year, drought affects anywhere from 3% to 59% of the U.S. soybean production areas. The stripe bars indicate years in which the drought impacted greater than 20% of the production area. This results in a reduced production and price volatility, and predicted climate conditions will make the situation worse in coming years. The USB sponsored research project used a USDA soybean germplasm collection for over 22,000 different soybean samples, ranging from ancestral East Asian genotypes to modern high yield and high oil samples. Using this well-documented database, Larry Purcell and his co-workers were able to identify 373 diverse maturity group 4 samples with drought-related traits: high water use efficiency, slow canopy wilting, cool canopy temperature, and high nitrogen fixation. The DNA regions or alleles associated with these traits are crossed into high-yielding elite lines, and these lines are being crossed with each other. The long-term goal is an elite high-yielding germoplast that has all 4 traits, which will be evaluated for drought tolerance. These promising lines will be available for crossing with other cultivars. Lastly, I want to talk about an exciting project supported and funded in part by USB that will certainly help us to be more profitable. The 256-mile stretch of the Mississippi River from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to the Gulf of Mexico accounts for 60% of the U.S. soybean exports, along with 59% of the corn exports. And by far, it's the leading export region for both commodities. For a while now, many stakeholders have been promoting the deepening of the lower river shipping channel from 45 to 50 feet to allow larger ships to be utilized and to allow current ships to be located in more revenue producing freight. We learned that a contract is complete with the state of Louisiana and the lower Mississippi River Deepening Project. This means that the state can utilize $2 million in USB funding for the planning, design, and research costs associated with the subsequent 2 phases, including pipeline relocation and dredging from mile 154 AHP to Baton Rouge. The overall project is estimated to cost $245 million and will occur in 3 phases. This important infrastructure funding is shared through project partnerships agreement of federal and state governments. I believe that farmers can be proud that our soy checkoff alongside of ASA and Soy Transportation Coalition work together to actively take steps forward to support infrastructure improvements that help boost profitability and sell more beans. This is just one example of how the soybean checkoff can collaborate with others in partnerships and leverage funds. In this case, it turned a $2 million investment into a $245 million project. Now, that's a good return and something we can stand on and be very proud of as farmers. We will be able to load containers heavier, add more bushels per load. That's good for farmers and good for the environment, and improves our reliability for our customers abroad. Once again, I'd like to thank you today for inviting me to bring you an update on some of the work the checkoff is doing. And I hope each of you enjoy this conference and learn something from it that you can take back to your farms. Thank you very much.